The grand chamber of the Concord shimmered with polished obsidian, each delegate seated behind their own biome-adapted throne. Mist hissed from coolant ducts for the aquatic, heat lamps for the reptilian, and even a pollen dispenser for the virile pollinates. At the center hovered the speaking flame, a floating prism of light that pulsed with diplomatic authority. When it flared crimson, the floor silenced. One name was called. A single pair of boots echoed as they stepped onto the gleaming platform. They weren't regulation, scuffed leather, dirt still on the soles. The woman who wore them was tall, sharp-shouldered, and walked with the relaxed gait of someone who'd once sprinted toward gunfire just to borrow a lighter. A cape draped over her back, an unapologetically bold display of stitched red, white, and blue, billowing slightly with her movement. She wore a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Colonel May McCrae, humanity's chosen envoy. She looked like a war story that hadn't finished being written. The chamber rustled. Delegates whispered through language filters and neurolinks. She didn't bow. She didn't posture. She just took a sip from the steel thermos in her hand and said, with cheerful menace, "Afternoon." High Chancellor Reschke, a translucent serpentine elder from the Zyron fold, slithered forward. His voice emerged as a series of musical chimes, translated instantly. You stand before the Concord, representing a species that has, by all indicators, thrived beyond reason. You've not only survived plague worlds and civil collapse, but expanded like mold in shadowed places. "Why, thank you," May said pleasantly. "You're not being complimented. I was raised to say thank you anyhow." Reschke narrowed his eyes. "This hearing is not for diplomacy. It is for evaluation. We ask one question, one only. What is Earth's apex predator?" May took another sip. "Biologically or behaviorally? You may answer as you please." "Well then," she said, her voice sweet as iced tea on a battlefield, "it's us." A ripple passed through the chamber. "You're saying humans, a species with no claws, dull teeth, and fragile organs, are the apex predator of their planet?" Reschke asked, disbelief thick. "Oh, I never said it was fair," she replied, still smiling. "We don't outrun things. We outthink 'em. We don't outmuscle the wild. We invent traps, poisons, distractions. We're the only species that figured out how to make guilt a weapon. And we never needed to be faster, just hungrier." Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A furry creature from the Kazim territories raised a claw. "In your files, we read that humans once hunted species to extinction for fashion." "Yes, sir," May said, nodding. "Feathers mostly, but also for fun, or fear, or just 'cause someone paid 'em." "Why?" the delegate whispered. "Because extinction's permanent," she said gently. "And humans like to win." The silence turned heavier. A gelatinous scribe dropped their writing stylus with a wet plop. Reschke hissed. "And what of compassion? Mercy? We've seen your art, your songs. Surely you cannot claim to be both monster and muse." May looked at him kindly, like a teacher watching a student who almost understood the lesson. "That's the thing about monsters. We paint them pretty, so we can love 'em first." The speaking flame pulsed. Historical accounts show humans aligning with stronger species when weak, only to surpass or destroy them later. "Sounds familiar," May murmured, eyes glinting. A new voice chimed in, softer, ethereal. It belonged to Liate of the Enhedra Bloom, a crystalline being whose race communicated via light pulses and scent. "Colonel, the Concord does not fear you. We wish to understand you. But you cloud your truths with poetry and threat. Can you not be plain?" May considered that. "Sure." She set her thermos on the floor with a soft clang. "You want to know the truth?" She walked slowly to the flame's edge, her boots loud in the hush. "We smile because it keeps our hands steady. We joke so we don't scream. We dance around fires we should have run from. And when we say we're fine..." She paused. "That's the warning." Her gaze swept the chamber, landing on each species with equal weight. "You think the worst thing a human can do is declare war. But we're more dangerous when we don't. When we just show up, bring gifts, shake hands, start teaching your kids chess and barbecue. You are destabilizing the outer colonies," Reschke said sharply. By existing? May asked. Or by inspiring? You sow rebellion. We sow questions, she corrected. You're the ones who panicked when your own people started asking why not. The chamber dimmed briefly, a power fluctuation. A subtle alarm chirped before resetting. Reshk flinched. May didn't. Liate shimmered in warning. Do not mistake this platform for a battlefield, Colonel. I don't, May said softly. Battlefields have rules. A reptilian from the Varnak sector spoke next, voice guttural and dry. What do you gain by provoking the Concord? Nothing, May replied. Provocations, just a bonus. What we gain is space. Stories. Room to breathe. And if you try to cage us. Her smile dropped. We remember. The chamber held its breath. And in that stillness, a new feed flickered on. An unauthorized broadcast, grainy footage from a Concord mining moon. A small settlement. Wind blown. Dust choked. A single human figure, female, wearing a cape, walked into frame. She offered the camera a cherry pie. Behind her, 12 elite soldiers stood uncertain. None spoke. One shifted. The screen blinked. Now there were only 11. Then 10. Then static. A timestamp revealed the footage was just 4 days old. The room exploded in sound, alarms, whispers, denials. Reshk bellowed for containment. Liate shimmered in confusion. May reached down, picked up her thermos, and took a sip. Well, she said brightly. That answers your question, doesn't it? Reshk roared. Did you do this? She didn't answer right away. Then, no. The room exhaled. I planned it, she added. The room inhaled again. May straightened. But I'm not the one you should be worried about. I'm just the story you tell to scare your young. The real problem? They're already out there. My people. My kind. Your kind. Liate asked. You imply divergence. Oh, sugar. May leaned forward. I mean Americans. A beat. Another. And then, very softly, a translator at the back of the room broke. It coughed word and hissed out. Apex predators. They don't chase. They invite the hunt. In the reflection of the obsidian walls, May McCrae's grin stretched just a little too wide. The incident logs were archived under a cryptic code. Operation. Homestead. The files weren't classified. They were buried under layers of metadata fog, as if the Concord hoped forgetting could serve where denial had failed. But forgetting was not a luxury for supreme strategist Rex of the Tharn Dominion. He'd lost a brother on that mission. Now he sat, cloaked in the red mists of his war chamber, watching the footage for the 14th time. The video began with static. Then a view of a dry, wind-scoured outpost. Orange sky, twin moons. Terraforming incomplete. The colony was unofficial, tagged by the Concord as a class for human expansion site. Not even a name, just coordinates. At 3 hours, 14 minutes and 9 seconds, 12 Dominion troopers entered frame, sleek armor glinting, weapons online, scanners pinging softly. At 3 hours, 14 minutes and 23 seconds, the troopers paused. Because a woman stood there, barefoot in dust, apron tied at the waist, a pie cooling on the ledge behind her. May McCrae. Again. She looked up at the camera and smiled like she'd been waiting. Threx paused the footage there. He always did. It was a smile, too calm, too ordinary. Not seductive, not mocking. Welcoming. The way a host smiled just before telling you which room was rigged to explode. The report had called it an extraction mission. It ended in silence. The first to disappear was Corporal Shun. He'd wandered behind the shed. No struggle, no alert. Gone. Then, Lieutenant Vesh. Then, the med drone's feed went blank. After that, the audio cut out completely. By the 12-minute mark, only 2 soldiers remained on screen. And May was still smiling. At 12 hours, 16 minutes and 7 seconds, she offered them pie. At 12 hours, 16 minutes and 32 seconds, they accepted. The screen blacked out at 12 hours, 18 minutes and 1 second. And the planet never responded to transmission again. That was 11 days ago. Threx pressed pause again and stared at her frozen image. Have we confirmed the colony status? He barked. His adjutant, a wide-eyed Illyrian, flinched. "Sir, scans show no biosigns. The settlement is intact. No heat, no movement, no decay. It's like it just stopped. No signs of combat." "No." Threx muttered something in his native clicks and growls. "Pull the anomaly logs. I want every electromagnetic fluctuation, every unclassified signal. Now." The adjutant hesitated. "Sir, what if it's not the colony that vanished?" Threx turned. "What if the planet itself submitted?" Outside, the war banners of the Dominion fluttered, scorched from age and ego. The idea festered like a wound. Meanwhile, in a distant starport, a conference was underway. A panel of scholars, xenopsychologists, and sociostrategists reviewing the data. "Humans display what we call tactical humility," said Professor Klenn of the Orbital Institute, adjusting his translation halo. "They will enter a room acting inferior, incompetent, or distracted. But observe their behavior once ignored. They start mapping." He brought up a hollow image, interstellar chessboard, marked in 3 dimensions. Human strategy favors sacrifice. They offer pain, time, soldiers, even truth. They let you win, so you'll stop watching. And then, they take the board. Murmurs rippled. An older Crenari philosopher asked, "But surely they have limits. Even apex predators hunt only when necessary." "You're thinking of wolves," said a voice from the back. All eyes turned. It was Liate of the Enhedra Bloom. She glowed faintly blue, a sign of sorrow. "Humans aren't wolves," she said. "They're not noble or balanced. They're adapters. They aren't top of the food chain. They climb it, even if it's on the corpses of their friends. They don't ask permission." She glanced at the footage from Homestead. "They moved in because no one told them not to." Someone whispered, "Then why didn't they take the moon?" "They did," she answered. "They just renamed it." That wasn't poetic exaggeration. When the Dominion returned to the coordinates of the vanished colony, they found the landscape altered. The structures were intact, but something had changed. A single flagpole stood in the center of the square. Wind fluttered through unfamiliar colors, red, white, and blue. The pole bore a sign: Freedom Crater. Population classified. Trespassers will be educated. Below it, another message had been burned into the stone in flawless galactic common. "You sent soldiers. We sent a lesson." The flag waved. No humans were visible, but the thermal readings suggested deep subterranean structures, dormant or waiting. The Dominion pulled back. Some say Threx issued the order with a shaking hand. Back on Concord Prime, May McCrae sat in a quiet cafe overlooking the Vapor Gardens. She wore civilian clothes, jeans, boots, and a leather jacket. Her cape was folded in her lap like a napkin. Across from her sat Neela Wren, an archivist from the 10,000 Mines, one of the few species who considered curiosity a virtue above survival. "You orchestrated all of this, didn't you?" he asked softly. May sipped her coffee. "I just made pie." "You baked it on purpose." "Well, yeah," she said. "Nothing says you're welcome like cherries and sugar." "People died. People vanish all the time," she said, not unkindly. "The ones who stay dead just didn't listen fast enough." Neela Wren's mandibles clicked nervously. "We assumed Earth was wild, primitive, that your species was still finding its place." "We did find it," May said. "Then we grew bored. Of peace. Of babysitters." He leaned in. "Do you want war?" "Of course not," she said, eyes narrowing. "War is expensive, messy, loud. Then what do you want?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket and slid a small object across the table. It was a domino, black, weighted, the first in a line. "Why this?" he asked. May smiled. "Because it only takes one to tip the rest." Neela Wren stared at it. "The colony?" She nodded. "Wasn't a show of strength. It was a whisper. You shouted. We answered in lowercase. But why make them vanish? Why not leave bodies? Bodies make martyrs. Ghosts make doubts." He stared at her. "Y'all keep trying to measure us like we're linear. But humans aren't straight lines. We're spirals. We loop. We fall. We rise different. Then what's the end of your spiral? May stood, folding her cape neatly over her shoulder. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "Tell your council to stop asking what we are." Neela Wren frowned. "Why?" She looked back, eyes colder now. "Because someday we'll ask it back." That night, Concord Prime initiated Protocol Amber, a diplomatic lockdown of all human expansion zones. Too late. Reports flooded in. On the ice planet Soren V, a group of human terraformers had converted a prison camp into a concert hall, with speakers that disrupted mind links among guards. They called it Liberation Jazz. On Barrow Station, a single human medic had trained a generation of bioengineered workers to resist control collars by teaching them about love letters. And on the moon once known as Colony Theta 9, the terraforming process had been completed overnight by an unauthorized swarm of human-built drones. They wrote Happy Tio, help, across the valley in solar panels. It was not invasion. It was infestation, with charm, with adaptability, with memes and meanings no other species had evolved defenses for. They weren't taking over with armies. They were seducing reality. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of uncharted space, a woman in a cape looked up at the stars, a thermos in her hand. Behind her, the shadow of an entire civilization moved, smiling, baking, laughing, preparing. But never still. The Concord fleet mobilized at dawn. 79 warships shimmered above the atmosphere of Hesperon 4, engines glowing like the eyes of gods waking from slumber. Crews from 12 species operated in tense synchronization, each watching their human counterparts too closely or not at all. The humans didn't seem to mind. They were quiet, unnaturally so. At Command Hub 19A, Admiral Solenrax of the Varnak Empire stood over the tactical display, his tail coiled and twitching. "Have we received Earth's final diplomatic position?" "No reply," said his aide. "The humans have withdrawn." Solenrax narrowed his eyes. "Define." "Colonies evacuated. Trade routes dark. No signals. They simply left." Another voice interrupted. Smooth. Calm. Too cheerful. Left is a strong word. They turned. Colonel May McCrae stood in the observation ring, her arms folded, her eyes fixed on the starfield beyond. She hadn't been invited. "How did you get in here?" Solenrax barked. "Door was open," she said, sipping her thermos. "Besides, you're about to launch war. Thought I'd bring a goodbye gift." She tossed something onto the console. A blue marble. Earth. Painted, hand-spun, childlike. It rolled, then stopped dead center. "You mock us," Solenrax hissed. "No," she said. "I remind you." Solenrax struck the marble. It bounced, harmless. But the room seemed colder afterward. "We have tolerated your chaos long enough," he snapped. "You poison minds. Dismantle order. We move now to contain your kind." McCrae didn't move. "Containment's a funny idea. You ever try to cage a virus?" "We are not afraid of your metaphors." "No, but you should be," she said. "Because we don't talk pretty for sport. We're carving warnings into the air." A younger tactician leaned in. "You admit humanity is dangerous?" "I admit we're awake." The room quieted. McCrae turned slowly. "You think we left because we're scared. But what happens when prey steps aside?" She walked past the main viewport, hands behind her back. "You saw our colonies. Homesteads. Gardens. Quiet towns. You looked and saw weakness. We saw vulnerability. That's your mistake," she said, halting. "You thought we were showing you us. But we were studying you." The wall behind her flickered. Surveillance footage played, grainy, erratic. Alien vessels caught in confusion. Support crews falling ill from unknown viruses. AI cores blinking with corrupted scripts. No clear sabotage. Just rot. "Your systems have holes," McCrae said. "We didn't punch through. We whispered through." "How long?" Solenrax asked, voice low. She smiled. "We started the day you gave us translators." Panic stirred. Someone slapped a red control sigil. Alarms bloomed. Code flooded consoles, alerts, breaches, protocol overrides. Too late. In the lower bays, drones activated. Not Concord issue. human-made, disguised as janitorial bots, food carriers, toy messengers. Now they walked on metal legs, eyes blinking red. In a distant corner of the shipyard, a door opened. Air hissed, and laughter echoed. A group of human engineers, thought long gone, were playing cards, calm as starlight. One of them looked up. "Right on time," she said, flipping a queen of hearts. The invasion had never been force. It had been presence. Culture over weapons. Questions over firepower. They hadn't rushed the gates. They'd bought coffee for the guards. Back at the command ring, McCrae stood with her arms raised. "Phase 2, she whispered into her lapel. The holographic galaxy flickered, then stabilized. But the borders had changed. Planets, once marked Concord blue, now pulsed red and white. Minor colonies, once trivial, now lit with dormant human symbols. "You didn't notice when our story spread," she said. "But your children did." Solarax slammed his fist down. "End the feed. Secure all comms." Comm lockdown failed. A technician choked. "They're in our—" McCrae raised a hand. "Enough," she said softly. "This was never about ships, or stars, or land." She turned, her face bathed in cold light. This was about influence. Silence deepened. Somewhere, metal groaned like it knew what came next. "Why?" Solarax asked, voice raw. "Because you made us small," she said. "You gave us maps and said stay here. But humans don't stay put. We migrate. We imagine. We infiltrate with books and banter." She stepped forward. "You asked what Earth's apex predator was." Solarax drew his blade, trembling. "It's not you." "No," she said. "It's us. All of us. Smiling. Planning. Living in your blind spots." He charged. She didn't flinch. He stopped inches away, breath ragged. Because her hand was already on his heart. Not stabbing. Just resting. Warm. Unafraid. "You're not worth killing," she said. Solarax trembled, confused. "Fear makes you predictable," she said. "But curiosity? That's chaos." The room dimmed. Across the Concord fleet, lights flickered, codes unraveled, and an old Earth song began to play, a slow hum, drifting through corridors, low and haunting. "This land is your land. This land is my land." No one recognized it, but it crawled under skin, into thought. Not because of lyrics, but because it was human. And they were inside now. One ship power down. Then another. Crew members began locking themselves in rooms. Not from orders, from instinct. At the galactic border, refugee freighters broadcast human phrases in dozens of tongues. "We come bearing casseroles. We'll teach you how to lose and laugh about it. We're sorry for what comes next." On the edge of unclaimed space, a Concord black site received a box. Inside, a cupcake, still warm, and a handwritten note. "Remember Homestead?" That was the warm-up. Back aboard Command Hub 19A, Solarax knelt. Not in submission, in comprehension. He looked up at McCrae, who simply watched him with eyes too calm for the fire around them. "You can't beat something that isn't trying to win," he whispered. She crouched. "We're not trying," she said. "We're becoming." Then she leaned close. "You still don't get it." He blinked. "What?" McCrae's smile sharpened. "You haven't met the real ones yet." Then she turned and walked away. And behind her, the galaxy rearranged itself without permission. The fleet never reached Earth. By the time the Concord Armada approached the Sol system, Earth was already gone. Not destroyed, not hidden, just silent. Sensors reported no heat signatures from cities, no electromagnetic noise, no satellites in orbit. The cradle of humanity floated in cold blue stillness, clouds drifting like old memories. The fleet commander, Vice Marshal Indrex of the Faralloni Spiral, stood at the bow of the flagship Judgment's wake, staring through the crystal viewport with disbelief. "There is no debris," he muttered. "No signs of evacuation," his adjutant confirmed. "But the surface is empty. No biomass. Not even bacteria." Indrex hissed softly. "A weapon." "They left nothing," came the whisper. "Even the oceans are filtered." Behind him, other commanders began issuing protocols, demanding planetary scans, forensic drones, gravity wells. All data returned the same. Earth had been archived, digitally preserved, physically erased, as if its makers had packed up the toys and taken the floor with them. A slow panic crept across the command decks. Earth wasn't meant to vanish. It was the final chess piece, the endgame. They were supposed to burn it, conquer it, bury the memory. But Earth had walked away. Indrex turned. Find the humans. Anywhere. The silence that answered was longer than it should have been. Then, they're everywhere. Colonies across the mid-spires reported sudden activity. Unmanned stations lit up with old Earth languages. Dormant outposts broadcast songs. On the fringe moons of Drelkfor, human children appeared in the markets, calm, smiling, asking alien vendors if they believed in ghosts. On the industrial planet Yani Delta, 10,000 enslaved workers rioted overnight after watching a bootleg recording of a human film, Spartacus. Rebellion bloomed like fungus after rain. One by one, systems folded, not through force, but through infection. Ideas spread faster than viruses. Concepts foreign to most species. Personal liberty, protest, satire, unconditional sacrifice. And something more dangerous than all the rest. Hope. Solenrax, now disgraced, exiled, and humiliated, stared at the fractured holomap in his subterranean bunker. 53 systems marked in Concord blue had gone dark. 37 more pulsed red and white. And still no official human message. Just scattered phrases whispered into public channels, like folk songs carried on wind. He paced. They did this, he snarled. The Boogeyman. The Americans. His aide blinked nervously. But sir, there are no confirmed U.S. territories left. That's the trick, he growled. They don't need land. They carry the myth. A screen blinked. Unauthorized transmission, source unknown. Solenrax barked, play it. The feed crackled. Then it appeared. Not McCrae. A little girl. Dark hair, sun freckles, maybe 7 years old. Sitting on a rock, swinging her legs. Hi, she said, smiling. I'm Katie. Her voice was gentle, disarming. I'm from Earth. Well, not anymore. We had to go. Mom says some folks didn't want us to stay put. So now we're visiting. She reached into a bag and pulled out a small flag. Stars. Stripes. Faded. You know what this is? She asked. She waited. Then continued. It's a story. About running away. About standing up. About hugging strangers and hitting monsters and knowing which is which. She leaned closer to the camera. Want to know a secret? She cupped her hand to her mouth. We never needed Earth. She smiled again. Wider this time. Not malicious. Just certain. The feed cut. Solenrax sat down slowly. Somewhere deep in space, far beyond the Concorde's reach, a meeting convened. Not of diplomats or soldiers. Of tacticians. Ghosts. Names whispered only in security briefings and rebel prayers. They called themselves the Continuum. At its head sat Colonel May McCrae. She looked tired. Not defeated. Not weak. Just weathered, like old oak. Solid. Unshaken. A younger officer, a man with cybernetic scars and a Boston drawl, sat beside her, chewing on a toothpick. They've started hunting their own now, he said. Solenrax launched purges. Half the Concorde's in hiding. McCrae didn't look up. And the others? Trying to adapt. Too late. Another officer nodded. The concept's inside now. It's not us they're fighting anymore. She finally glanced up. That was always the plan. One of the council members leaned forward. So what now? We won. The war's over. No, McCrae said quietly. The war just changed masks. The council quieted. She stood and turned to a wide viewing pane. Below, an alien meadow stretched beneath a pale lavender sky. Children, human, alien, hybrid, chased each other between strange trees. A kite fluttered. A dog barked. Peace. Or the illusion of it. She sipped her thermos. We don't own the stars, she said. But we taught them to listen. The man with the toothpick chuckled. That sounds like something outta a movie. McCrae smiled. Yeah, but so was we the people. A low tone rang. One of the members tapped a console. Transmission coming in. Source. The man blinked. Earth. They froze. That's impossible, another officer whispered. McCrae stepped forward. Play it. The screen filled with static. Then came a single phrase. Stage 3 approved. Coordinates inbound. Burn the disguise. A long silence followed. Then McCrae sighed. Well, so much for retirement. The man beside her grinned. You knew it was coming. Course I did. He stood. What do we tell them? She turned, the light outlining her face like an old battle flag. We tell them the Boogeyman's coming home. Somewhere far beyond, in the skeletal remains of Earth's former orbit, a tiny satellite blinked to life. It released a signal. The stars shifted, and humanity exhaled.